Oh, thank you, Senators. We'll now move to question time. Senator Wong.
Thank you, President. I seek leave to make a statement concerning ministerial arrangements for question time.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.
I thank the Senate. I advise changes to ministerial arrangements. Senator McCarthy will be absent from question time this week for personal reasons. In her absence, ministers will represent portfolios at question time in accordance with a letter I've circulated to the President, party leaders and independent senators.
Thank you, Senator Wong. We'll now move to question time. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Last week, the Treasurer announced we are going to have another look at the super performance test and that this would be done to remove obstacles and impediments to super investing in areas like housing and other areas where there's clearly a national need. Minister, the performance test does not stop superannuation funds from investing in any asset, so long as that investment stacks up financially. It does, however, protect superannuation members, ensuring that superannuation is invested solely in the members' best financial interest and preventing super becoming a vehicle for a political agenda. Minister, when the Treasurer says that he will be taking another look at the performance test, specifically what tweaks does the government have in mind?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, President. I thank Senator Hume for the question and around an issue that came up during the Treasurer's economic roundtable discussions that were held last week. This was an issue that was raised and has been raised by some, and it came up under the section of the roundtable that was looking at capital investment, capital flows, and how to ensure that we get the investment in Australia that's needed to support, the growing needs of our economy and our country. The Treasurer has said that he will have a look at it, but he has also made it clear that it does his assessment of any changes that may come will not be around the better off the super objective, which is and responsibility that funds always look for the best outcome for members, and he's been very clear about that. So this is one of the areas that has come up. It is going to be an area that will be looked at further, but the Treasurer has not concluded his thinking, nor the government has concluded our thinking on that. This was one of a number of areas which we are doing further work on, coming out from the economic reform roundtable. But the Treasurer has been very clear of those areas, looking at the performance test, the areas that he is not going to.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hume, first supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. Minister, when the coalition government introduced the performance test, Australians were paying more for their superannuation fees than they were in their electricity and water bills combined. Thanks to the Coalition's reforms, super fees are now at record lows and super fund investment returns have exceeded market expectations every year since. Millions of Australians will now retire with more. So what problem, Minister, are you trying to solve? What do you want to allow investments in superannuation why do you want to make investments in superannuation that would make Australians worse off?
Thank you, Senator Hume. The time for asking the question has expired. Minister Gallagher.
Except that is what we are doing, the end of Senator Hume's question. And I think we're all on a unity ticket around ensuring that fees for members are low and that outcomes for members are high. And that is what we seek for anyone who has a superannuation account. And there has been a lot of work, and I'll acknowledge the work, Senator Hume, that you did when you had responsibility for the portfolio in looking at issues around fees. This is not around looking at those matters at all. This is an issue that has come up in the context of allowing superannuation to be invested in Australia and some of the barriers to that occurring. The Treasurer has said he will have a look at it. It has been raised. He will have a look at it. but that will not take away from the fundamental purpose of superannuation.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Hume, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is complicated, but for those that are worried about what this actually means for them, let me explain Labor's plans in plain English. The Albanese government has said that to increase productivity, Labor will change the rules so that their personal retirement savings can be used to deliver their campaign commitments. Minister, what assurance can you give Australians that have seen time and time again that when Labor run out of money, they come after yours?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Order. Order. The minister is on her feet. Order. Order. Minister Gallagher.
Well, it seems that those opposite haven't learnt anything from the last election to carry on like that. Senator Hume, to carry on like that when you know that is exact.
Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry, Senator Hume.
Point of order, Madam President. Why is it always that the mean girls go personal?
Senator Hume, I'm going to ask you to withdraw that.
I withdraw.
Minister, please continue.
Thank you. And sorry, I'm kind of struck by that, Senator Hume. I expected better. I always expect better from you, but there you go.
Minister Gallagher, please resume a seat. Senator Hume, I'll just remind the chamber, and you in particular, how you raise a point of order. You stand, you wait for my call, and you respectfully put the point of order. What is your point of order?
Relevance, Madam President. I just want to know why it is that Labor come after Australians' money when they run out of their own.
Senator Hume, you are well aware the minister is entitled to take interjections as part of the question. So I suggest if you want relevance to your question that you believe is not there, stop interjecting. Minister, please continue.
Well, just to finish on this, Labor is the party of superannuation. We created it, we strengthened it, we've supported it to 12%. The reason people have superannuation in this country is because of the Australian Labor Party, and those opposite have sought to undermine it every single time they have the opportunity. You never supported it, you never wanted working people to have superannuation, and when you've had the opportunity, you've sought to undermine it. Well, that is not what the Albanese Labor government will ever do with your super.
Thank you, Minister. Before I go to Senator Walker, I draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the gallery of a parliamentary delegation from the Committee on National Defence, Security and Foreign Affairs of the National Assembly of Vietnam, led by His Excellency General Lê Tu Thoi. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. Senator Walker.
Thank you, President, and I note that this is not my first speech. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Housing is an issue that affects every single Australian. In its first term, the Albanese Labor government took important steps to tackle the housing crisis we inherited. How, in our second term, is the government continuing to support more Australians into home ownership?
Thank you, Senator Walker. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Can I thank Senator Walker for that question and for her advocacy for young Australians. We are so very proud to have you here in the Senate with us. And you are right, Australians have been waiting for progress on housing for far too long, and for 10 years those opposite did nothing while the housing crisis got worse. And they didn't just do nothing, they didn't actually even have a housing minister in the cabinet for most of that decade. But those on this side take this issue seriously, President, because we know that housing costs are the source of anxiety for so many Australians' family budgets. We know that the pressure of housing costs make it not only harder to get ahead, but even harder to plan for the future. And that's why this side of politics is investing $43 billion to build more houses and to increase supply. And we are making progress. Under Labor, around 500,000 new homes have been built around the country, and in this term we are being even more ambitious, moving even faster to deliver more help to more Australians. The Prime Minister announced this morning that we would fast-track our election commitment to give all first home buyers access to 5% deposits. The government will guarantee a portion of the first home buyer's home loan from the 1st of October 2025 so they can buy a home with 5% deposit and not pay for mortgage insurance. Because we want, those of us on this side, want more Australians to buy their own homes sooner and with a lower deposit. And not only that, we are rolling out our Help to Buy shared equity scheme later this year for Australians on low and moderate income, so more Australians can purchase a home with a lower deposit and a smaller mortgage, something Australians support but clearly those opposite do not.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Walker, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. It was great to see the announcement this morning that the Albanese Labor government is fast-tracking its 5% deposit policy. Given the scale of the challenges in housing, it is important that the government's responses address multiple parts of the problem. What other measures is the government delivering to improve access to housing?
Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Walker. And you're right, deposits aren't the only challenge we face in housing, and particularly young Australians face in housing. And for 40 years, this country hasn't been building enough houses. 40 years we haven't built enough houses. Lack of supply is a serious challenge and one that has to continue to be addressed. That's why this government is delivering 55,000 social and affordable homes, working with the states and territories and investing $54 million to manufacture more homes more quickly, making it easier for builders across the country to build more homes more quickly, by pausing and streamlining the National Construction Code and turbocharging environmental approvals to unlock thousands more homes. Now, that is all in contrast to those opposite, who continue to interject, who seem to believe that really, it's only those who can really afford a house who should get one, and that government doesn't have a role in trying to improve affordability by investing in supply.
Thank you, Minister.
That is the position of the opposition.
Senator Walker, first supplementary. Second, beg your pardon.
How is the Albanese Labor government working to overcome opposition to building more homes and delivering on its commitment to build more houses for more Australians?
Minister Wong.
Thank you. Well, there's certainly one thing about the opposition is they don't learn from an election. They went to the last election trying to block housing supply improvements, having blocked the Housing Australia Future Fund and, in fact, pledging to scrap it. And now we see laws, the build-to-rent laws, which support the construction of around 80,000 new homes to rent. Well, this policy will encourage investment, it will encourage construction, it will increase supply, more houses, more rentals. But Senator Bragg and the opposition have decided they want to block plans to build more homes. This is what they want. This is the hill on which they choose to make their stand. We want to stop more houses being built. We want to stop more houses being built. Standing in the way of 80,000 more homes for Australians. And they believe they're a responsible party of government standing in the way of more homes for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. It's not the question you think it might be. Now, after overseeing an historic rise in red tape in the housing sector during your first term, now the government has decided to copy the Coalition's policy of freezing the National Construction Code. So the question is, why did Labor say this was a bad idea during the recent election, but now you say it's a good idea?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I know that it's something that you probably focus on a lot, but you know what we're focused on? We're focused on delivering all of the policies which will enable more houses to be built, and will ensure that we deal with the supply side of housing affordability. That includes the policy announcement on the construction code, which from memory was for a shorter period than you indicated, because obviously there are also other issues which have to be addressed. But it is part of a suite of policies which are about more houses, which you're opposed to. So, you know, if you want to come in here and frankly bleat about, well, we had something to say at the last election. You know what else you had to say at the last election? We're going to abolish the HAF. Yeah. That's what else you had to say at the last election is you wanted to make it very clear to young Australians, actually, we, the Coalition, we, the Liberal Party of Australia, are actually not are against more homes for Australians. That is the policy you took to the last election. So, Senator Bragg, if you're in the business of actually wanting to reshape your policies from the last election, I'd invite you to consider this. Australians rejected your opposition to more houses. Australians rejected your opposition to more houses. So maybe you should discontinue the current position you have, which is to stand in the way of 80,000 more houses for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Thank you very much. Minister, precisely what pieces of red tape will Labor cut from the 2022 National Construction Code in your proposed 2025 iteration?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, I will. Thank you, President. What it means for the NCC 2022, I am advised that NCC 2022 will continue to be adopted, including 7-star energy efficiency, better insulation, higher quality glazing, smarter floor plans and livable housing provisions. I am advised that final advice on 2025 NCC from the Australian Building Codes Board in coming weeks will be provided, and following that, ministers will meet to discuss a final position. I'm also advised that that code has been consulted on for more than a year. I'm sure that Senator Ayres has way more information than I on this detail, and I'm grateful to him for providing me with that brief via Senator Gallagher. But I would make a broader point, Senator. Your party has been determinedly against every additional supply measure that we have put forward. And Australians firmly rejected that, and you should explain to them why you have not continued.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
No, thank you very much, and I do appreciate that additional information. So the question now is, when will those changes be made to the 2022 code or the 2025 iteration and legislated by the states as is required under the code? So the question is, when will it be done?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Well, Senator, unsurprisingly, I'm sure that Senator Ayres or the who's representing the Housing Minister might be able to provide you with a bit more information on that detail. But we are determined to proceed with this in a way that is both sensible but also enables more houses to be built. And I again return to the fundamental proposition, Senator Bragg. You are proposing to your party that you will continue to oppose additional supply. I know that is difficult to take.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Bragg.
Just a point of order on relevance. It was quite a specific question about when will the changes be made by the state parliaments, as is required under this code.
Yes, and there was others about when will changes be made, and also you did refer to legislation, and the minister is being relevant to the question. Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. And what I did actually respond to that in the first point. And the point I'd also make is that the coalition policy at the last election was freezing every single safety and quality standard in the NCC for a decade, not a position that was supported by most housing industry peaks or by the state, Senator. So in relation to that, I've indicated to you we'll seek further information, but I would again make the point, Senator Bragg, you and the coalition have stood against every housing supply measure that this government has put forward.
So
no one in Australia takes you seriously when it comes to
Senator Steele-John. I'm sorry, Senator Steele-John. We'll wait for the chamber to come to order. Senator Steele-John.
Thank you, President. My question is to Senator Gallagher. I'm in their capacity as the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Let's be clear. Autism is permanent and significant. The language mild or moderate has no clinical definition. Previously, the NDIS has stated that autistic children who fall in the level 2 or 3 category of support when diagnosed are eligible for the scheme on the basis that they require either substantial or very substantial support. Can the Minister explain what was meant by mild or moderate autism and confirm whether it's the government's intention to remove children with a diagnosis level of 1 or 2 autism?
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. Minister Wong.
Point of order. I think the senator said Senator Gallagher. Senator Gallagher is happy to take it as Minister for Finance. If the question is for the minister dealing with the NDIS, assisting on the NDIS, that would be Senator McAllister. So we just seek some clarity about who you're directing a question to.
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. You did indicate it was for the minister responsible for the NDIS, and that is Minister McAllister. So are you happy for me to direct the question to her? Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, Senator Steele-John, and thank you, President. Senator Steele-John, I know that you know this, but there are 5.5 million Australians, or in that order, with disability. And our government's intention is to ensure that all people with disability are supported to live their best lives and to meet their goals. Some of those people, as you also know, are supported by the NDIS, and it is a critical, life-changing, incredibly important piece of Australia's social architecture, and one that our government is very proud of. Many senators will have heard Minister Butler's speech and his remarks over the last week, where he talked about our determination to ensure that the NDIS is here for the long term, to play the role that it is intended to play in supporting people with significant and permanent disability to meet their objectives. What he also said was that we need to make sure that it is not the only source of support for people with disability. And senators will know that we have been working for some years now with stakeholders, with states and territories, to answer the question that was put to us by the review undertaken by Bruce Bonohady and Lisa Paul. What should we do about the absence of supports in the broader community for people with disability who may not be appropriate candidates or suitable candidates for entry into the NDIS? That's the question the government is seeking to answer, senators. And Minister Butler made an important contribution last week about that exact issue. Senator, we know that people with autism, autistic people, have...
thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Steele-John, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The NDIS provides autistic children with therapies and other supports that have transformed their lives. Their access to supports cannot go backwards because of Labor penny pinching. Minister, can you please assure people with autistic kids and autistic people across the country that they will be able to access appropriate supports, including speech pathology, occupational therapy and psychosocial therapy, with no out-of-pocket costs under the new programme?
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. Minister McAllister.
Thanks, President, and thank you, Senator Steele-John, for the supplementary question. Senator, evidence-based, best practice, early interventions can support children with autism and also children experiencing developmental delay. And it can help them and their families and their carers better understand and respond to their child's needs. As the review of the NDIS indicated, it is not always the case that the best way to deliver supports of that kind is through the NDIS, through packages of individualised supports. That review pointed to the opportunities before us to find easier pathways and more appropriate pathways for families to obtain that support. And that is what this government seeks to do. It's a conversation we've been having with stakeholders. We, of course, that many people contributed to the Bonyhady and Paul review. Many people have contributed to the consultation.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Steele-John, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Minister has said, Minister Butler, that after the Thriving Kids programme is operational, there will be access changes made to the NDIS so that children with what the government described as mild to moderate autism will no longer be accepted into the NDIS. Can the Minister please confirm that there will be no changes made to eligibility for autistic adults?
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. And Senator Steele-John, can I apologise for running out of time on each of your previous questions? I have sought to address comprehensively, but I've realised on each occasion I should have watched the clock more closely. Minister Butler's speech. Minister Butler's speech last week laid out our priorities, and they're the same priorities that we have agreed with states and territories some time ago. That we do seek to establish a system of foundational supports outside of the NDIS, and the place we seek to start is looking for opportunities to work with children and young people. That is the work that we have set about doing. It's the work we've been seeking to progress with states and territories, and that remains our priority. Minister Butler has also indicated that at some point there will need to be a further wave of reform, and we would work closely with the disability community on any such reforms.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Mulholland.
My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. The past month has seen release of welcome economic data, including the third interest rate cut since the election, helping households with cost of living pressures. Wages data is showing real wages growth for 7 consecutive quarters. Labour force data shows that unemployment decreases are remaining at a low of 4.2%, and women's labour participation is at record highs. With more people in jobs, earning more and keeping more of what they're earning, how will the Albanese Labor government continue to help Australians with cost of living assistance, including ways to support first home owners to own their own home?
Great question.
Thank you, Senator Mulholland. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Mulholland for the question, and it's an important one because it talks about how the government is working to ensure that we are supporting households with cost of living assistance, but also looking at further ways we can get Australians, and particularly first-home buyers, into owning their own home. From the 1st of July, we've had a number of measures that have come in to help people with cost of living pressures. Of course, we've had the minimum wage increase, the superannuation guarantee rose to 12%. PPL has gone to 24 weeks, and super is now being paid on government-paid parental leave. We've had more energy bill relief with an extra $150 of power bills for every household and around 1 million small businesses. We've put in place our bonus for housing apprentices on top of their wages, our home battery scheme, the incentive for people to take up home batteries to help them cut their power bills is going very, very well. Paid pracs for nursing, teaching, social work and midwifery students are in place. We've also boosting funding into Medicare to make sure that we are ensuring that people can get access to their GP and primary health care without having to pay. We've got our instant asset write-off in place. Our legislation's passed on student debt, our Medicare urgent care clinics, bulk billing will be expanded from November. And in addition to that, the PM has made and the Housing Minister have made an important announcement further around the 5% deposit, first home buyers deposit. This will expand an existing scheme, and we know will provide some support to first home buyers to get into the housing market at the same time that we are providing all of that effort into supply and getting the supply of housing in this country where it should be and where it was ignored for 10 years by those opposite.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Mulholland, first supplementary.
How do the outcomes of last week's Economic Reform Roundtable build on that economic record, and what were the key themes and priorities identified in the meeting?
Minister Gallagher.
And I thank Senator Mulholland for asking a question about the Economic Reform Roundtable. And there were a number of outcomes, a number of directions, looking at how we can work together. And this is something that those opposite don't understand. They find it quite an unusual concept that you would bring together leaders from business, union leaders, community sector leaders, into one room and talk to them about some of the challenges that are going on. We know that's a foreign concept for you, who only like to talk in a closed room to people that agree with you about what you think. That is your approach to reform. Our approach is to pull together people to represent different sectors and to come out with consensus, where we can, on dealing with some of the challenges, whether it be in housing, whether it be in technology, whether it be in regulation, whether it be in any of those areas that are important to the Australian economy but also important to the Australian people.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Mulholland, second supplementary.
Why is it important that the Albanese Labor government continues to engage with business, unions and experts as we continue to strengthen the economy?
Thank you, Senator Mulholland. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, the Albanese government is a government that brings people together. It brings people together, sometimes with different views, to talk about what the challenges are and to find a way through. And some of these things are hard, whether it be environmental law, whether it be tech regulation, whether it be how we build more homes more quickly, whether it be engagement across the Commonwealth and the states. These are not easy issues to solve, and they require consultation, they require discussion, and if possible they require agreement. And that is the benefit of the Treasurer's Economic Reform Roundtable, and I sat in that roundtable for periods of time over that 3 days, and I was struck by the level of willingness of good people in this country coming together to talk about national challenges, not necessarily in the lane they all usually operate in, but across the board, and that bodes well for our country and our country's future.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Orman-Payne.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Social Services. It's now been 2 years since the recommendations of the Robo-Debt Royal Commission were handed down, and yet several still remain unactioned, including reinstating a 6-year limit on debt recovery. I'm deeply concerned that over 100,000 income support recipients whose debts were levied using the Department's ruthless and dubious method of income apportionment may yet again be pursued by the government for historical debt notices, once more placing vulnerable people at risk of financial and personal crisis. The pursuit of years-old, sometimes decades-old debts was one of the features of the social security system that underpinned the Robo-Debt scheme. Will this government finally act on the Royal Commission's recommendation to legislate a 6-year limitation on debt recovery, ensure that the most vulnerable people in our society are not being chased for debts that can date back decades?
Thank you, Senator Orman-Payne. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Orman-Payne for the question. I can assure you, Senator, that between the Minister for Social Services and myself, we have had a number of discussions around how we respond to the federal court case that considered income apportionment. And just to be clear, and because the parallels are often drawn between robo-debt and income apportionment, robo-debt was bad policy dreamt up by those opposite to pursue vulnerable people to provide a budget saving and to threaten them with jail if they didn't pay back debts they didn't own. That's that. Income apportionment was not designed to punish welfare recipients or to claw back revenue. It was about making life easier for people. So let's just be clear about the difference between income apportionment and what happened under their watch. They're the biggest failure of public administration in our country's history, a decision by them over there to pursue vulnerable Australians for billions of dollars they didn't owe, as it turned out. Now, we are considering our response to that. Of course, debt and length of time for debt and the amount, low-level debts are all part of the work that's currently before the Minister for Social Services, and she has had a number of discussions with me about that, and we will resolve them shortly. So I'm not in a position to advise you at the moment about any changes to debt waivers or our policy in relation to that, but we are working through the detail and the judgment of the Federal Court, and we will provide a response once those discussions are complete.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Orman-Payne, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Robodebt tragedy was only possible because income support recipients were and still are trapped on poverty payments. This made them acutely vulnerable to the actions of the government. I have personally been contacted by constituents on JobSeeker who can't afford to eat, pay for essential medications or medical treatment, or keep a roof over their heads. Minister, will Labor finally act to raise the rate of all income support payments above the poverty line?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, as the Prime Minister has said on a number of occasions, we review payments through every budget cycle, and you will note, Senator Orman-Payne, that we have provided additional above-indexation support for those on JobSeeker and indeed other income support payments like single parenting payment, and changed the length of time people can take those payments when it comes to single parenting payment. Just again on income apportionment and Robodebt. Robodebt was designed to raise revenue by clawing back debt from people who never owed that money. Income apportionment was about reducing a reporting burden to try and make it easier for people, and actually about a third of people benefited from income apportionment over time, whereas, as we know, Robodebt indiscriminately made people worse off. But we will continue to look at payments as we do through every budget cycle. That's what we did last term and we'll continue to do it this term.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Orman-Payne, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. I note that if 1/3 benefited, that means 2/3 didn't, and it was found to be unlawful. My second supplementary. Minister, why is it that your government can always find money, billions of dollars in fact, for American submarines, but never for struggling Australians?
Good question. Thank you, Senator Orman-Payne. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. Well, that's simply not true. A government has to do a lot of things. I know those over there find it hilarious. The party of Robodebt find this question hilarious. That is how disrespectful you are about people on income support payments. We saw it when you were in government. We saw it when you threatened people with jail for debts they didn't earn. Senator Cash, remember that? You would have been sitting around the cabinet table. On the issue of allocation of budget funding, a significant proportion of the budget is, as appropriate, provided through income support payments through Services Australia, whether it be JobSeeker, family tax payment, single parenting payment, aged care, aged pension, all of that. The allocation for the defence budget is smaller than that. Our priority is on Australian people.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Henderson.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. When will the Treasurer introduce quantifiable fiscal rules to contain his spending spree?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much. And isn't it interesting that they're obsessed with fiscal rules now when it didn't seem to bother them at all? It didn't seem to bother them. Well, you had a fiscal rule. Here's a fiscal rule. Why don't we harass and hunt down people on income support to provide a saving to the budget, which is actually costing billions of dollars and is still tied up in court? How about that for a little fiscal rule? How about all of we will provide
Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Henderson.
Madam President, point of order on direct relevance. I ask, when will the Treasurer introduce quantifiable fiscal rules?
The question. Thank you, Senator Henderson. I have reminded you of that frequently. I will remind the Minister to answer the question on behalf of the government. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. I'll give you another fiscal rule. Remember when you promised surpluses every year but actually delivered none? Remember that? That rule went very well, didn't it? What about paying down debt when debt skyrocketed under you? That was another rule. We'll pay down debt. Never did. Actually tripled under you.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Henderson.
Madam President, a point of order on direct relevance. The minister clearly does not know what fiscal rules are. Could she please address the question?
Senator Henderson, the previous time you stood, I reminded you not to go off the point of order, and you did exactly that. I will draw the minister to your question and how it relates to the government. Minister Gallagher.
Thanks. And remember those who went to the last election promising to up everybody's tax? Yeah. Remember, tax increase for everyone. There's another fiscal rule from them. So we had raise your taxes, never deliver a surplus and triple the debt. That's it. We have fiscal...
Minister Gallagher. Senator Henderson. Order. 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 Senator Henderson.
Madam President, on direct relevance, I ask the minister to address my question, not to go on this absolute rant, which has got nothing to do with the question.
Senator Henderson, the commentary is unnecessary. Every time you've stood and called a point of order, I have reminded you of that. I have drawn the minister back to the question. I've asked her to answer it from the government's perspective. Minister Wong.
President, I didn't intervene on the last occasion, but this senator has, I think, been quite willful in her disregard for your rulings and exhortations. You have asked her repeatedly not to repeat the sentence, not to repeat the question, not to repeat the question.
Order.
No, it's
order.
No.
Order.
No. It is about respecting the Senate, respecting the President, and respecting the standing orders.
Senator Henderson, come to order,
Senator
please.
Henderson should stop wilfully disregarding your ruling in relation to how she deals with points of order. And I'd ask you to consider how that can be enforced.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Senator Cash.
Thank you. And on the point of order, well, then the coalition is going to require guidance for the balance, clearly, of this parliament. Because are we now saying, President, and we would ask for a ruling on this, you can only raise the words relevance or direct relevance with no further context, because I would suggest in the previous parliament, when we were in government for 9 years, that was not the rule.
Senator Cash, with respect, you have taken me out of context. What I asked, order. What I've asked senators not to do is put commentary around the point of order. I have, on every occasion that Senator Henderson has raised the point of order, reminded her of that, and I've also drawn the minister back to the question. I have been completely responsible in the way that I have responded to the point of order, but I will not have public commentary being made around questions. It's not the opportunity for senators to make commentary. It is the opportunity for senators to raise points of order. I've accepted the point of order, and I've drawn the minister on 3 times back to the question. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And it appears Senator Henderson hasn't actually read the budget, because if she had read the budget, and it's actually quite early on in the budget, I accept that the budget is a number of books and you probably don't want to read all of it, but there is a section of the budget that goes through the fiscal strategy. And in that, the fiscal strategy says we will improve the budget position, which we have. We've delivered 2 surpluses. We've improved the budget position by $207
Minister,
billion.
please resume your seat. Senator Watts. Order. Senator Henderson.
Madam President, thank you. I would ask that you ask the minister to answer my question in relation to quantifiable fiscal rules.
Thank you, Senator Henderson, and the minister is being directly relevant to your question. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. So our fiscal strategy includes improving the budget position. We've done that, the biggest fiscal turnaround of any first-term government ever. Our rules also include reducing gross debt as a share of economy. Tick, done that. We've got debt down by $177 billion, and it's expected, and we've got that.
Order. Senator Henderson, I haven't called you yet. Order. I haven't called you yet. Please resume your seat. Order. Across the chamber, we just had both leaders on their feet talking about the need to be respectful to my rulings. And just then, in response to the final parts of the minister's questions, those on my left were entirely out of order. So if your leader's on her feet, that applies to the entirety of question time, not just the bits you choose to take or leave. Senator Henderson, first supplementary.
Thank you very much, Madam President. In summarising key outcomes from the taxpayer-funded Talkfest, the Treasurer failed to mention the calls made by attendees of the roundtable for budget rules to be put in place to restore fiscal discipline. Why is the Treasurer ignoring the very people he gathered to advise him last week?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with it, the imputation on the roundtable at all. I noticed the Shadow Treasurer attended that, so I think you're casting aspersions on him and his attendance at that meeting by that. Can I say that budget sustainability was a session on a published agenda that was released about the Economic Reform Roundtable. It has also been covered in the discussion of outcomes from the roundtable, so I don't know particularly what aspect of Senator Henderson's seeking from that, but it was a section that was discussed, it was covered in the outcomes, and it's been covered in the media.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Henderson, second supplementary.
Thanks, Madam President. What level of spending as a percentage of GDP does the Treasurer believe is in the best long-term interests of Australia?
Thank you, Senator Henderson. Minister Gallagher.
Well, we think that the quality of spending matters, like how you spend and what you spend on matters. But I would point out to Senator Henderson that in terms of spending growth, we've kept average real spending growth to 1.7% per year over the 7 years to 28-29. Around half of the 30-year average, which was 3.2%. And I would also draw your attention to, whilst you were in government, it was 4.1% and 2.7% under pre-pandemic. So we consider these things through the budget process, but we have a fiscal strategy. We are sticking to that strategy. We are delivering against that strategy, and there is more work to do.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher, relating to taxation proposals debated at last week's Productivity Roundtable. The proposal was to force homeowners with a spare bedroom to take in strangers as renters under threat of financial penalty, a tax if they don't. Minister, why did the Roundtable even consider this monstrous idea, and will you now rule the idea out so our elderly can have peace of mind they won't have strangers forced into their family home?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Roberts for the question. There was a pretty wide discussion on tax and Australia's tax system. I did not attend all of those sessions, and I was not at a session where that was raised. Senator Roberts, there was discussion around housing, as you would expect, and different views being put around the table. I think what I picked up from the two sessions that I attended late on the third day was there was a view about ensuring that the tax system is efficient. There was certainly views about it being simplified. There were different views around business taxation, and there were also discussions around intergenerational equity, about how the tax system is working for different generations. But the specifics of what you've raised was not raised with me by any roundtable participant, and I was not at a session where that was raised as something that people were seeking. And it's not something the government has worked on.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Thank you. Additionally, the Roundtable debated a death tax on the family home and a land tax on the value of the property. Minister, are these mutually exclusive taxes, or will this government be introducing all three?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Well, again, in the sessions that I was a participant at, that was not raised. And we have, and I think the Treasurer and the Prime Minister were clear in the lead-up to the roundtable that there are no plans to change the taxation of owner-occupied homes, and I've not been part of any discussions around that, Senator Roberts. So I'm not sure. Part of the discussion that was had was much more high level around how the tax system is working, how complicated it can be, and whether or not it's working in the interests. It's fair. The system is fair and working in the interests of every generation in this country. There were mixed views about that, but that was certain. There was certainly no outcomes that go to anywhere near what you have been asking about today. The tax system, the tax changes, reforms that we will be doing are the ones we took to the election, which was about standard deductions and also around income tax.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
Thank you. All three of these new proposals will force everyday Australians out of their homes to make way for the large families and family co-location evident amongst new arrivals. Labor Party-aligned researcher Kos Samaras has shown these new arrivals vote heavily for Labor. Minister, why are you forcing Australians out of their home to make way for Labor voting new arrivals? And where are Australians supposed to go?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Well, there's
order on my right. Order.
There was a lot in that, President, and I hope that I have answered your concerns around some of the ideas you say. They were not outcomes. In fact, in the sessions I was at, they were not raised. So I don't know anything about that. In relation to housing more generally, we are trying to build more housing. I mean, part of what we've been doing in this place and will continue to do, and indeed the announcement by the Prime Minister and the Housing Minister today, was how do we ensure that housing ownership, owning your own home, isn't out of reach of generations of Australians, and also how do we build more supply. So in that respect, I hope that answers the second part. And in terms of migration numbers, they're outlined in the budget papers.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Babet.
Thanks, President. My question is for the Minister representing the Treasurer. Minister, the Australian Financial Review reported recently that federal and state government spending splurge has hit the highest level since the end of World War II, and that more than half of voters now rely on governments for most of their income through public sector wages, welfare benefits or subsidies, and that 4 in 5 jobs created in the past 2 years have been in the non-market sector. So my question is our economy just one giant taxpayer-funded vote-buying rort? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Gallagher.
And in relation to the creation of jobs, because I've heard this used quite a lot by members of parliament and senators about non-market jobs, and that for some reason they're less value than any other job. Well, that's the insinuation I've heard from your colleague Senator Cash, and I've just heard it from Senator Babet. They are jobs in aged care. They are jobs in early education and care. They are jobs in disability services. They are non-market jobs. And I think we should have an honest discussion about the fact that we need those jobs. They are good jobs. They probably haven't been paid enough in the past, and we are trying to address that through the work of ministers and my colleagues on this side of the chamber, where we've supported wage increases for aged care workers, and we're seeing increases for early childhood educators as well. So we on this side do not dismiss non-market jobs. They are good jobs. The services sector is an important part of our economy, and we need to make sure that we are investing in it so that you, Senator Babet, when you are 75 or 80 or 85 or 90, that you will get the care that you deserve. That is what we are trying to do in that part of the economy. But in relation to the other parts of your question, the answer is no.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Babet.
Thank you, President. Now, the same article mentioned that our federal Treasury warned in a post-election briefing to Treasurer Chalmers that government spending must be cut and taxes increased to put the federal budget on a sustainable footing. What meaningful budget cuts will your government undertake to ensure that taxes don't have to be increased?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, incoming government briefs raise a lot of issues and draw a lot of issues to ministers' attention. In relation to spending, we are always looking at how we can find savings across the budget. We found $100 billion in savings over our last budget since we came to the government. $100 billion. Contrast that with those opposite. None. Zero. Zilch. Zilch. $100 billion that we've found, and it is important because it does a number of things. It repairs the budget, but it also allows us to invest in those areas of the economy where we need to make investments in, whether it be in housing, whether it be in defence, whether it be in disability services or early childhood education. You have a budget for a reason, and that's so that you can invest in these areas that are important national priorities. But we will continue to look for savings. We went to the election with another $6.4 billion in savings to find from the public service, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Chandler. Oh, sorry, my bad. Senator Babet, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Now, with projected expenditure growth, especially in areas like disability, it is likely that you'll eventually run out of other people's money, and you'll probably consider other taxes. Minister, can you please confirm that under this government that there will be no increases in superannuation or the GST?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, the tax policies we took to the election were around standard deductions, making it easier for people to put their tax return in, and to lower income tax. They were the taxes that we took to the election. They remain the government's policy, and we consider all of these matters through the annual budget process.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, President. My question is for the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. On Insiders on Sunday, David Spears asked the Treasurer, will we see anything further on tax in your next budget, to which the Treasurer replied, well, it remains to be seen. But on Sky News on the 8th of August, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, the only tax policy that we are implementing is the one that we took to the election. Minister, who is right, the Prime Minister or the Treasurer?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President. And I didn't catch the Treasurer's interview yesterday.
Order.
Wow. That's a big hit.
Order.
That's a really big hit there.
Order.
But I read the hang on. Getting too excited over there, but I read the transcript. So there you go. Thank you. I've just answered Senator Babet's question along similar lines. The tax policy that we are implementing is the tax policy we took to the last election, which is around standard deductions. It's also around income tax reductions, which I would just remind everybody who's now so concerned about tax that this mob over here were the ones that went to the last election wanting to raise everyone's income tax. So let's just remember that. I know it's a little uncomfortable, isn't it, Senator Patterson? You had to go out and sell it every single day, and we know. Oh dear. But they're now very, very concerned about this matter after having a policy which was actually to hike up everyone's taxes. But we've been clear. The tax policy we took to the last election is the one that we're implementing, along with a whole range of other measures that we went to the budget over. And in response to Senator Allman-Payne and Senator Babet, we look at the revenue and spending lines of our budgets through every budget process. That is what we've done in our last budgets, and that is what we will continue to do. That's what responsible governments do. They look at where the pressures are, they look at how you fund those pressures, you look at savings. We know that this might be a foreign concept to those opposite who didn't have that fiscal discipline when they were in government. We've delivered surpluses, we've found savings, we've returned money to budget, we've lowered debt, we've lowered interest on that debt, and we've been able to invest in those national priorities that people value, and we will continue to do so.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. I'm still not clear whether you agree with the Prime Minister or the Treasurer, but let's persist. Before the election, again on Sky News, the Prime Minister on the 1st of May ruled out additional tax changes after the election, including changes on negative gearing, saying, and I quote, what we've got is our policies out there for all to see. Does the Prime Minister's promise to not raise taxes after the election still stand?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Yeah. The only that's right. The only party promising to raise taxes at the last election was you, Senator Patterson. That is what you were a member of, the shadow cabinet that decided that. I have heard the PM say that before the election. I've heard the PM say it after the election. Our tax policies are the ones that we took to the election: standard deductions and lowering income tax. You were about hiking up income tax, and you took that to the election, and the people of Australia had a look at what you were offering and they said no thanks. So we are implementing the policies that we took to the last election, whether it be in tax, whether it be in healthcare and investing in Medicare, opening up more urgent care clinics, expanding on bulk billing rates, whether it be in our investments in education, in skills, in training, in housing. All of those commitments that we took to the election that were costed and released before the election are the ones that we will be delivering upon.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. If that is indeed the case, then this should be a very easy question for you to answer. Will you rule out any tax changes this term that were not taken to the election, yes or no?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Well, thank you very much, President. And whilst Senator Patterson can ask the question, he can't tell me how to answer the question, and that's the way this whole relationship goes, Senator Patterson. So, so thank you for the question. I refer you to my previous answers and also highlight the fact that there were discussions with the states around road user charging and a couple of other areas. We're a responsible government. We consider matters as they arise. The round table was a good and positive thing for this country. I know that you've all decided to ridicule it and diminish it, which is, a decision that you can defend. But from my reading of the discussions around the table last week, it was positive. It was the amount of people that wanted to lean in and be a part of the discussion and also understand some of the challenges facing our community and our economy was real. There was a level of buy-in that we don't get from you.
The time for answering has expired. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I ask that further questions be placed on notice.